everybody. Are we live yet? I do not know. Every single time. Hello. There I am. Okay. I think we're in. We're in. Hello. Welcome to another Thursday night. 8 o'clock here in the UK. I know it's different times around the world because that's how time zones work, but it's 8 o'clock here. As always, I'll give you a moment to log on and get yourself ready. Andrew is not in jail. He's here. Fantastic. I think there's more than you because I see 4 people watching. So comment. Brian's here. We are live from my studio, which is my terraced house. I would like to have a YouTube studio. What if I had my own studio one day? That would be fun. Yes, so I'm not sure who is planning on joining us tonight. Like I said, I can spend a whole hour talking to myself and you can all watch it later. So let's start with my week and your week and what's been going on. I'm trying to think about my week. Oh, I went into London yesterday, as Girl Gone London is supposed to do. And I went to the British Museum, which I have not been to the British Museum in a long time. I feel like it's one of those things I did a lot as a student. And Anna's here. Had to reload. I wonder, okay. Is it working okay? So yes, the British Museum, I used to go a ton as a student. And also when I lived in London, like in central London, it was a really good place to spend the day, hang out, take advantage of the cafe and the views. But now that I live outside of London, I don't go in to do like the museums as much as I should. So anyway, I thought I should update myself on the British Museum. Spoiler alert, hasn't changed. The centuries of history, still the same. Has anyone here been to the British Museum? I would love to hear your favorite parts. Mine is definitely the Egyptian room, but also I kind of just like being in the main, what would you call it, atrium area, especially on a sunny day with the light streaming through those ceiling windows, those glass ceiling tiles. Amazing. So the British Museum was on my itinerary for yesterday, and I've recently gone to the Science Museum and Victoria and Albert Museum and the Museum of London, and I'm going to try and continue refreshing my memory and my pictures on all the different London museums. I really want to go to the Postal Museum, which I haven't yet. Hi, Neil. Welcome. Dave's made it. Dave, all the way from Boston and Lincolnshire, not Massachusetts. Andrew says everybody likes the Egyptian room. Yeah, it's a pretty common one to like. And it wasn't too busy yesterday. So I feel like, obviously, we're not in tourist peak season, because it's winter. And, we've just now started to change some things here to let international visitors in easier. So it wasn't completely full and jam-packed. However, I feel like even though there weren't that many people there was always somebody. I could be in a gallery that's just like seemingly miles long, and the person is always up next to me trying to look at things. I'm like, can you just give me some space? Anna says we went there 20 years ago. Like I said, hasn't changed, but that's good. Can't wait to show Lucas. He loves Egyptian history. I think seeing Cleopatra in the British Museum should be at the top of anyone's bucket list. Just the fact that you go in and she's just there. Really amazing. And the Rosetta Stone, obviously. Blah, 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 blah. Andrew says, do the Iron Age chieftain's grave room at British Museum. I'm not sure I went to that one yesterday, but I will the next time I go. What are your favorite museums in London? I would love to hear. I have not done the Postal Museum. What else haven't I done? I think I said last time the Transport Museum, one of my faves. Science Museum, I really enjoy. British Museum. Victoria and Albert Museum I like, but it also kind of feels like a royal garage sale of just like all the stuff people have given them over the years that they didn't know where to put it. But I feel like it's gotten better over the years and more interactive. So maybe it's just clouded judgment from when I was a student and I felt it was boring. What other museums? The Museum of Brands. Has anyone been to the Museum of Brands? Neil says we like to stay in the area around the British Museum. Yes, it is my favorite part of London. I used to work around there when I worked in London. The study abroad hub, there's 2 of them for American students in the UK, in case you're wondering. One is in Kensington and one is in Bloomsbury and around the British Museum. So the vast majority of American universities, NYU, the University of Oregon, Florida State University, Syracuse, and New York, like any big programs are going to be centered in one of those 2 areas. So when I was walking around the area near the British Museum yesterday, I was like, there were a ton of American accents because a lot of American students actually live and study around there. Andrew's got a list going. Okay. Museum of London. Agree. Love Museum of London. International War Museum. Also love that one. Wait, not international, sorry. Imperial War Museum. I've not done HMS Belfast. I have done the Cabinet War Rooms. Dave says Maritime Museum at Greenwich. I have not been to that one in a long time, but you've just reminded me that I should definitely go and make a Greenwich trip, particularly when the weather's nicer, because Greenwich is lovely. Neil likes the Imperial War Museum. And so speaking of Neil and our friends in Scotland, I've almost filled up my Scotland group trip. I'm waiting on a couple people because it needs a certain number to run, but I think that I'm close enough to make it happen. So I'm really excited about that because I feel like it's going to be just really fun showing. I mean, I haven't been to all these places on the tour either, so I will also be guided around, but just to show people something that they haven't seen, to show off Scotland, which, as you know from my video today, I think is very beautiful and I absolutely love it and would move there if not for the fewer daylight hours than England. Anna says, I like currency and I heard about the Bank of England Museum. I haven't been to that one in a long time, but I do remember going and it was pretty good from what I remember. Do you remember, Anna, that the British Museum actually has an entire currency exhibit? Like an entire exhibit taking you from the beginning of currency to international currencies to modern day currency and cash registers and things like that. Andrew says the Docklands Museum. I don't think I've been to the Docklands Museum. My friend is going to Portsmouth this weekend, which has the like the dockyards. I know Docklands Museum, and this is not related, but dock made me think of it. So I've been to the Portsmouth dockyards, which was pretty cool. Neil says the Globe is like a living museum. Yes, and the Globe tours are pretty good. And the £5 tickets for standing tickets, one of the best deals in London for theater. Anna says we're going to do Greenwich on our trip. Looks like some neat things to see. Oh, plus her son wants to do the Emirates simulator at the Emirates Experience nearby. I haven't heard anything about that or have done it myself, so I'd be very interested to hear how that goes for you guys. Anna says, oh, the British Museum has currency. I'll have to see that. Our previous visit was quick. Yes. Log this in your memory. I was just there yesterday. Almost an entire floor, entire exhibit just about currency. So if you really like currency, British Museum. I was also thinking, this museum is so big that there's just no way that anybody's gonna, you could be there for an entire week and not see everything. So I kind of factored this into when people ask me how long they're supposed to spend at a museum. It's like, I don't know. You could waltz in for 30 minutes, see Cleopatra and the Rosetta Stone and bounce out, or you could be there for 7 days and still not see it all. Neil says, I like doing the tours in the British Museum and they are free. Yes, I saw one yesterday in the Mexico section and another in the China section. All free. Just show up. That's one thing when I was in America. A lot of museums are not free. So the Smithsonian in Washington, the Smithsonian museums tend to be free. And there's a lot, like in New York, for instance, that are not. They're $20, $25 an entry. And you're just like, I don't know. I want to do it, but is it worth it? Should I just do something else? How much do I want to go? London Canal Museum. How is that? Because I have a friend who's obsessed with like canal boats and the London canals, and she is coming in May, and I didn't know if I should recommend it to her. Neil says they give little insights. Unless you know they are there, you wouldn't know it. Yeah, so many things you just stumble upon in London that you would have no idea until you get there, and then it's a tip I can give future people. Okay, so that's what I did this week. I work obviously from home. So I was mostly at home this week, but I went into London yesterday. How was your week? Let me know. What did you get up to? What's the weather like? Let's do our British small talk. The weather here was pretty gray and overcast, but we had like 2 hours of sun this afternoon. So of course we went for a walk, as you do when the sun's out. Like I said, you leave the house instantly. We all know this. And I believe it's going to be much more of the same, except I will soon, and by soon, I mean in February, be going on a trip somewhere that I have no idea about because my husband has booked a surprise trip. Well, I know that we're going on a trip, but I have no idea where it is. So I'm assuming we're not staying in the UK, but there's flights involved. I don't know. Maybe we're going up to Scotland. So I will be in February doing a little bit of traveling, and then France has opened up enough for hopefully our skiing trip in March to continue. So more recommendations from Andrew. London Museum of Water and Steam. That is a very specific museum topic. Sounds fascinating. Anna says it's 39 Fahrenheit and sunny there. Congratulations on the sun. Wishing that it continues for you guys. Everybody else, how was your week? What's been going on? I thought we could talk about, okay, let's see. Neil's got some advice. If you're a real science geek, the basement of the Royal Institution is amazing. It's the place most elements were discovered and electric motors and generators were invented. I'm not a huge science geek, but that is fascinating. Let me write that down. Basement of the Royal Institution. Okay. I will look into that. Institution. Okay. So quick announcement before we carry on. So next week, which is the 3rd of February, next Thursday, if you are on the top tier of the Patreon, which I believe is Yorkshire pudding as the picture, then next Thursday at this time, we won't be doing a regular live stream. We will be doing our first Patreon pub quiz. So I am going to come with the curated, fantastic pub quiz questions. And we can talk about next week how you want to do it, whatever. We can talk about logistics of how seriously you want to take it. If you are not on that top tier, then next Thursday will be a week off for you from the live stream, but we'll still be in the Discord chat if you're on that and want to say hi, as well as you can just comment on Patreon as usual. I haven't seen Glyn in the chat, but Glyn has been very busy this week coming up with April Fool's fake facts about things Americans invented that I'm going to use for my April Fool's Day video, and he has come up with some amazing ones. So perhaps he's just too worn out tonight from doing all of that. So yes, so if you want to be a part of that week of the monthly pub quiz, definitely make sure that you're on the Yorkshire pudding tier before next week. And if not, we will see you the following week. So I'll post about this in the Patreon. I never know what to call it. Is it a group? I have a group on Facebook, the Patreon thing. So I'll post as a reminder. But for those of you who are on the top tier or looking to be on the top tier for a pub quiz, super excited about that. I love pub quiz questions and I love doing pub quizzes. Andrew says the one near Kew Bridges, so the London Museum of Water and Steam, has a fantastic collection of toilets. Amazing. Neil says, amazing woman did a great video with deep fried pizza in Scotland today. And Dave says, haha, was that Kaylin? It was. I did a video all about the things I love about Scotland, and deep fried pizza is absolutely, I mean, I put it as like my third, but it's definitely my top. Deep fried pizza is amazing. Andrew said, my week got lots done, managed to avoid killing anyone. Congratulations. We are all proud of you. Got annoyed with China and Bulgaria. Seems like a standard week to me. Has anyone got any exciting weekend plans? I think I might be going to Nando's. That's my weekend plan. Other than that, just continuing to get stuff done, try and get this Scotland trip planned. Now I'm losing my train of thought. I've now updated you on next week. Okay, so continue letting me know how your week was. Let's check in. Glenn, obviously, I don't know if he could make it or not, but Glenn's been busy for the April Fool's video. And I put as the topic, because I feel like we need to continue on from last week, I put house renovation horrors as a topic that we could really get stuck into tonight. Because as you know from my post on Patreon a while ago, we're having issues with condensation in our loft. Funnily enough, yesterday, my neighbor's alarm. Oh, Damien's here. Hi, Damien. Nice to see you. Don't you worry. Nice to have you here. I'm just telling the story about how my neighbors had some sort of leak that basically killed their power. And this triggered an alarm that it's not their alarm in the sense that they installed it. They've lived in the house for 3 years. No one ever said anything about this alarm to them. So it's gone off a couple of times. They don't know how to turn it off. Nobody ever would give them that information. So the power going out because of the leak made this alarm blare for a solid 30 minutes. Most neighbors, so my husband ran over to help because we have a ladder. I heard somebody say we should just smash it. Somebody in true British style leaned out the window and yelled, "Shut that thing up." And they were like, "We're trying." It was right out of a sitcom. Anna says you're going to my in-laws for my mother-in-law's fabulous lasagna and chocolate pecan pie. That sounds amazing. I feel like pecan pie is something that we don't really do in England. Andrew's got a weekend of collecting a network analyzer from Braintree. No idea what that means. Typically when you say things, Andrew, I feel like it goes right over my head because you're doing things with words that I don't understand. So you could be, I know that you're not, I know that you're an engineer, but this reminds me on my tangent, before we get into home renovation horrors, has anybody seen The Puppet Master on Netflix? This reminds me because Andrew is using words for his work and engineering that I don't necessarily understand, which made me think in The Puppet Master, I won't give too much away, but essentially this guy is pretending to be a spy and people believe him. It's a documentary. I would highly recommend it. Dave said, if it's sunny, might get some work done on my car. Typical Brit. If it's sunny, we will do this stuff outside. I don't know if you were in here, Dave, earlier, but I said we had a couple hours of sun today. So we instantly opened the door and left for a walk to take advantage of it. On the topic of home renovations, Neil said we had a new kitchen, an extension built late 2019. Friday before Christmas, had no kitchen. Oh my gosh. I have been there on one Thanksgiving. The wiring in our oven, something was wrong with it. And by using both ovens, the top oven and the bottom oven, I basically like blew up the entire oven system and had no oven on Thanksgiving, which I was in the UK, so it's not like anyone else was celebrating Thanksgiving, but we were, so it was pretty important. Andrew says, okay, network analyzer is a big, heavy box that measures electronic things. I appreciate that. It's like on Reddit when you see the like explain like I'm 5. That's typically what I'm going to need. Damien says, I saw a US series where Louis Vuitton high heel stilettos were called pumps. In England, a pair of pumps is what you might call deck shoes. Okay, let me wrap my head around this. High heel stilettos were called pumps. Yes. That is what we would call pumps in the US. And to England, a pair of pumps is what you might call deck shoes. Do you mean like boat shoes, kind of? I've heard my British mother-in-law refer to, how would I describe it? We call them flats in the US, but think of like a ballerina shoe, but it's not for ballerinas. That's what my British mother-in-law called pumps. So I wonder if that's, let me look up, see what deck shoes goes in. It's always something. Always. And just stopped again. Well, I don't want to click stop. Am I back? Am I back? Okay. I don't see the circle. Somebody tell me if we're back. Are we back? I hope we're back. Would you like my song about if... Okay, there I am. Guys, that was not my fault. Most of the times, my fault. Okay, here we go. So, home renovation horrors. Continuing on. Anna says, 2 years ago, while we were still renting, the toilet had been slowly leaking and destroyed the insulation under the house. They got that fixed and new spray insulation. Had to move out to a hotel for 2 nights with our cats. Got a pretty much new bathroom, but they never sealed the openings under the house and we had a rat issue. Oh my goodness. I mean... if it's not one thing with home renovations, it's rats, basically. We've never had rats here, but one used to live in my office, and we had a rat guy who was very friendly, by the way. Friendliest guy ever. All he wanted to do was go in there and spell the demise of some rats, but his conversations besides the rat death was very pleasant. He was very happy. Anna says, now we have a mountain beaver that burrowed under the house and lives there. He drags tree limbs around and we hear it under the house, but he's a new tenant. He's not wrecking anything. You have a mountain beaver? That's the most Washington thing I've ever heard. Everybody look up mountain beaver. Oh, that's so cute. It's not closely related to a Eurasian beaver, if anyone wants to know, or a real North American beaver. It looks like it's a large rodent. That's so cute. I mean, if they don't damage stuff, that's cute. Andrew says, the worst one I know is a new married couple of police officers bought a brand new house, put all the wedding presents in it, went on 2 weeks honeymoon. Is it going to be a flood? Is it going to be a fire? Oh, we got to figure out what's happening there. Damien says, use a mice trap. Cheese is a myth. I didn't know that cheese was a myth with mice. Use raisins, works 100%. Interesting. Okay, Andrew's continuing on. The day after these police officers went on their honeymoon, the thing holding the water tank up collapsed and ran for 13 days. Oh my God. I can't even imagine all of their wedding presents. I think that definitely takes takes the cake, takes the wedding cake, as it were. Oh my God. So our home renovation horrors have been less to do with things like tragically going wrong in the house and more to do with us deciding that we could take on projects that are only meant for people who actually know what they're doing. Because when we're in America, we watch a lot of HGTV, the Home and Garden Network. And basically on there, it just makes it look like, as American television does, it's just so optimistic. It's like, you could do this at home. And it's like, clearly you're not supposed to. So we get very optimistic about what we are able to do or what we should be doing, which has led to me plastering a wall, which you're never supposed to do if you don't know how to plaster a wall, because it's going to take you more to fix than it is to actually plaster the wall correctly. Top tip. And various instances of like we were doing our bathroom in the middle of winter, because we always do home renovation in the middle of winter for some stupid reason. So we didn't have a shower. We were showering at the local gym. Great. And we had to get something done before the guy came the next day, and we just were behind schedule, and I was still working in London. Genuinely pulled an all-nighter. Even in college, I did not pull all-nighters. I'm not an all-nighter kind of person, but we had to pull an all-nighter. There were tears. I'm not going to say from who, my husband or I, both of us. And it was just like going to work the next day. I had like just like paint and wood and whatever, and we were trying to like screw something in at 3 a.m. and we live in a terraced house, so our neighbors like could probably hear us, so we were trying to go really quiet. But you know when you go really quiet with the screwdriver and it's like it's like louder than if you had just done it. Okay. Back to Andrew's story about the honeymooners coming back. The house was totally destroyed and all of the presents. They had to demolish it and start again. Entire contents lost, took a year to mend. Can you imagine coming back from your honeymoon and everything is destroyed? I can't even imagine. House cost £87,000. Total insurance claim was $250,000. Wow. Oh my God. That definitely wins. I mean, unless someone else has a £250,000 insurance claim story they can share. Does anybody else do that though? Like my husband and I feeling like you can take on more than you can and then just wishing you'd hire somebody. That for some reason is a constant story in our life. And also, I don't like, part of it for me too is I didn't even understand like the words used to describe things in British homes versus American homes. Can be different because we just use different words. For instance, I have never heard a Brit say attic. Do any of you say attic? Any of my British viewers? Because I've always heard loft as basically the storage space above your house. Americans don't say, well, I don't know regionally, but where I'm from, we don't say loft to mean what we would call the attic. So people kept asking and like talking about lofts here for the longest time. And to me, a loft, we would call in my house the loft because it was an upstairs room that like, how could I explain it? Ours had a door, but maybe it wouldn't necessarily have to, but it's kind of like more open to the rest of the house. So if you can imagine an upstairs, there's a room with an open area so you can actually see down below. And it did have a door, but I guess technically it wouldn't. That's what I would think of as a loft. Like a room that's like lofted in the house. The attic would be the storage space. Neil says attic is more if it's a room in the roof space. Interesting. Definitely not the case in American English. Andrew says some of our attics have what you call loft inside them. I think I'm getting what you guys are meaning. But do you see how just the differences in how we use these same words? So confusing when you first moved here. Neil says, in our first house, we were stripping the paper off before we moved in. My wife looked at the top. My wife took the top layer of the plasterboard. Anna says, our real horror was the price of our new roof this past summer. Oh, we can talk about roofs. Lumber prices were insane, so it was obnoxiously expensive but needed to be done. So, roofs in the UK versus roofs in the US, very different. Somebody said to me the other day, or maybe when I posted this video, they were like, do you realize that Americans tile their roofs with what basically we would use on like our garden shed? So typically American roofs, not all of them, some of them are ceramic depending on what area of the country you're in, but a lot of them are going to be like felt kind of shingles. So they're kind of like flexible. British roofs, for the most part, they're all ceramic tiles here, right? They're very, very sturdy. And the idea of replacing your roof is something that many people would really not have to deal with, like in their lifetime owning their home. Whereas Americans have to replace them relatively frequently because they do not withstand the elements as well. Okay, more loft versus attic talk. Damien says, loft is the storage space and attic is a room. I'm currently in the attic, which was previously the loft. That is so interesting because we literally use it the opposite way in the US. Anna says our landlords really let things go. Yeah, and now you own the house and now you have to fix all their stuff, but at least it's yours and you can do what you want with your little mountain beaver that I feel like you should give a name and he can be your house mascot. Anna says we have composite shingle panels over plywood. Yes. And they have to be replaced. Is it every 15 to 20 years? Possibly. I said this to a Brit the other day and they were like, I don't think. Okay, as Andrew's just saying now, his house, built in 1938, still has its original roof. So when I talk about replacing roofs or needing new roofs here in England, people are like, why are you replacing your roof? And I'm like, that's just, I don't know. We just don't have roofs to Andrew says clay tiles on a wooden frame. Does anybody know why this roof difference is? Why do Americans make roofs that you have to replace every 15 to 20 years and Andrew's had his since 1938? Does anybody know? I'm sure one of you must know. I'm trying to think of other home renovation. Oh yeah, so first of all, moving here, like attic versus loft and just like different words for things. And I genuinely still have like a very basic understanding of how a radiator system works. They do have radiators like we have in the UK and some places in the US, but a lot of times it's like HVAC systems. I don't even know what that stands for. Everybody just says HVAC, but basically like heated air instead of water heating up and giving off heat. So I am from Florida. So just heating in general, don't really understand the concept. But the radiator system had especially never been exposed to that because in Florida, our heating was basically just the same kind of system as the air conditioning. And when you turn it on for the one day you might need it in the winter, it's just kind of like a dry heat. Everything smells like it's burning because I'm sure some like particles that have been up there are burning. So learning like how the radiator systems here work was different for me. Neil says, here we go. True history. We have a dry stone wall as one of our boundary walls, and it was built in 1783. 1783, which, funnily enough, I think is the year that England actually officially declared from their end that America was independent, but America says it's 1776 because that's when we decided that we were going to do that. But I think 1783 was the year that England was like, okay, now we will approve. Andrew says slate roofs can last 100 years. They usually only fail because the nails corrode. Anna says our homes are made of timber with composite shingles because it's safer for earthquakes and it gives in an earthquake. That's a very good point. Our roofs in Florida are shingles as well, and I don't know the mechanics behind it, but our houses are all hurricane code. I'm not going to say hurricane proof because you can't really be hurricane proof, but they're all up to hurricane code. Dave says the weather in the US is more extreme. I suppose Anna and I have just illustrated that with the earthquakes and the hurricanes. Andrew says the clay to make bricks and tiles is very easily found in the UK. That is interesting as well. You learn something new every single time I talk to you guys. Damien says new homes in the UK are following the US, cheap setup but poor longevity. Never buy. Has anyone ever bought a new build? We almost bought a new build and then something happened and fell through with our financing. So we essentially like gave it back. But I've learned all the stuff about how new builds are overpriced, and like half the time there's going to be this list of things that are going to be wrong anyway. They tend to be smaller, and like they're starting to build them on like floodplains and stuff. Andrew says my father was a surveyor. What would we call a surveyor in the US? Anybody know? The seller from a shop in Canterbury was original Roman. There you go. Anna says problem with timber here is fires. Yes, fire season where you are and in California seems very scary. In the suburbs it's not as scary. Still seems scary. Definitely that is in our minds when we're thinking about a California move, whether that's something that we want to deal with. We should have an anti new build marketing firm just about how you should all avoid them. We did not end up going through with it. This is not a new build we moved into. I do get the allure of a new build because they just seem fancy and nice, but they're not. Also, there's never enough parking anyway, ever. But particularly on like a new build estate, never. There's like one parking spot for like 3 houses or apartments. It's not good. Damien says, Paul Revere wrote in 1775, Declaration of Independence in 1776, the war continued for 6 years before we conceded. I genuinely did not know this war continued for 6 years thing until maybe a couple weeks ago when I was looking up something for a video. America does not teach that. America teaches 1776 is when we said we're independent. End of story. That is it. Genuinely, in all my years of schooling, I know people on YouTube think I'm stupid. I'm just play stupid on the internet. No one never knew that. Never knew that. So it's funny that here it's like, oh, the war continued for 6 years before England conceded, and America's rewritten it to be like 1776. We said we're on our own, sent them away, goodbye, end of story. Just a funny differences. Anna says it's smoke that's the problem, dealing with the wildfires. The ash on the cars is corrosive, and being asthmatic is not fun. Fires and earthquakes are the two extreme things that we really don't get that much in Florida. I say that much, like never, but I just feel like they're a lot scarier because they feel a lot more unpredictable. And I know that hurricanes can take random turns and like veer off path, but I just feel like a hurricane, like an earthquake in particular, is just going to happen. A fire is just going to happen. And like they must have, they evacuate certain areas, but I still feel like it's, it can be really fast moving. But a hurricane, you're tracking, you're constantly seeing which way it's going to go. It's not necessarily like ripping its way across anything before you can wake up in the morning. You kind of know that you're dealing with it. So fires and earthquakes both terrify me. Damien says, what about 1812? We won that one. They do like vaguely talk about 1812, but as I was saying in another video, I would say American history in schools is pretty obsessed with colonies. We don't like taxation without representation. Now we're independent, 1776. Goodbye. The only big battle US won was after the peace treaty was signed. So yes, American history is definitely maybe a little revisionist, or we leave some stuff out that we're not that interested in. Oh no, is my computer not plugged in? I've got 18 minutes, but my computer says it's running low. Hang on. But it's plugged in. Oh, what the heck? We haven't lost power because all my lights are still on. Okay, I'm probably about to unplug something here I don't want to unplug. What? Something is broken. This is bizarre. My laptop charger isn't working. Here we are trying to talk about American history, and my laptop charger is just completely... I must be doing something really stupid. I love how you guys really tune in religiously every week to something is always going to go wrong. What's it going to be next week? I don't know. Damien says, when I travel in Europe, I always listen out for a U.S. accent because you are the most welcoming and friendly nation. Damien, thank you very much for saying that. Andrew says, yes, they do die. Yes, but this is like 2 months old. Okay, here's this charger. Make sure it's all plugged in. Okay. Here we go again. See, something's going on with OBS. Is the power light on the laptop green? Yes. 2 months means nothing. Oh, if something happens and this drops out, do not panic. It's just my laptop has died, but let's see. It's not working. I don't know. It says I've got 10 minutes left, which feels like a lie. You know when your computers say you have like 15 minutes left and then it shuts off in 1? People are talking about 1812. Neil's apologizing even though I don't think he did anything wrong. Dave's trying to help me. We're gonna hang up hopefully when it's time, and I'm gonna have forgotten to like plug something in, but I don't know. Okay, so I'm getting like a flashing red. I'm getting a flashing like something is about to happen. I'm probably gonna get cut off right in the middle. So I'm gonna say toodaloo. Great to see you. I swear I've fixed every single one of these problems, and then something else comes up. So one day we will be completely problem free, but today is not that day. Oh, hello. Can you hear me? I did turn my camera thing off. Hang on. Can you see me? I don't really know. Start recording. Am I here? You can hear me typing. Oh, wait. I think it might have. I don't know. I think the streaming got messed up when my. Yes, you can hear me, but you can't see me. Do you just see a. Oh, you see me from when it turned off. Well, that's what I still look like, just in a different position. So there we have it. Uh, the power cable wasn't correctly placed. It had come out of the main power brick. So I had the right ends plugged in, but I should have checked the actual like brick. So we'll add that to the list of troubleshooting for next week. I'm just looking at myself now, all of you seeing me paused. It looks like I'm giving a thumbs up. So this is, ever the professional. You guys really put up with a lot. Like I said, one day I've got a whole list now of all these things to check, and every week something else comes up, but soon there will be nothing else for me to have to check. So if and also I think Neil might have gone, but Neil always tells me that when I say bye, he waves, and I love that. So if everybody else could wave in their houses when we hang up. But if you're still here and you're still listening, because you can't see me, I am going to officially call tonight over. But I hope that I will see most of you next week for the pub quiz. You have until, so if you're not on that tier, you won't basically be able to see the link to the quiz. So you'll just skip next week and we'll see you the week after. If you do update your tier to be on the Yorkshire pudding tier, that includes the pub quiz. So I will then see those of you next week. We're still talking history. We've got the chat going. If you're watching this on catch up, this is probably all very, very strange. But yes, so 8:51. We made it a solid like 49 minutes before we had any technical difficulties, which I think is a record for this stream. So next week we'll go for the full hour, no problems, not trying to jinx it, but that's what I'm hoping for. So yeah, just look at me sitting there giving you the thumbs up. Honest as if I have a question for you, can I email you? If you're talking about me, you absolutely can. I don't know if you have my email, but that's my email. It's actually Kaylin at girlgonelondon.com is what I usually tell people, but I've gotten in the habit of saying girlgonelondon@gmail.com because a lot of people misspell Kaylin and then their emails don't get to me. So either one of those works. Now we're having a conversation about when World War I ended. We'll have to do a history chat, not the pub quiz week, but the week after. How about that? We'll do a history. We can all give each other history lessons on various
Various things. Okay. I don't really know how to end this now because I feel like I have ended it and I am live streaming. So I'm going to try to end it for real. So if the chat finishes, I'm sorry. You guys are lovely as always. See you for the pub quiz next week.